a jerk shad on a jig head.
An eye candy grub.
Big bite, salt tube.
Crush City freeloader, and then of course the Crush City Mayor.
My #1 go-to.
A guaranteed winner.
That thing is just deadly.
Welcome to AnglingBuzz. In this episode, we're focusing on the subject matter of soft plastics. Now, you walk into any fishing retailer and you'll probably see aisles and aisles of this bait category. There's all sorts of different color patterns, shapes, sizes, and profiles, from everything from panfish to bass to walleye, and even bigger ones for musky and pike. We have a variety of seasoned anglers sharing their advice and tips into this subject matter. First up is 2023 Bassmaster Classic champion Jeff Gustafson. He's fishing the Elite Series right now. Gussie, what's your favorite soft plastic tactic?
By far the most popular soft plastic style for me is the jerk shad on a jig head. Won the Bassmaster Classic with that bait last year, won an Elite Series tournament, so that's over $400,000 in those events. Have done really well fishing around home in a lot of tournaments with this bait. And not only do I catch bass with it, really good for walleye, lake trout, pike, smaller versions for crappies. Predatory fish all over the country feed on bait fish, and that's no secret. Smelt, ciscos, shad, alewives, there's all kinds of them. And this is as natural of an imitator of the bait fish as you're gonna get. When it comes to fishing them, I pretty much just stick to the same setup all the time. 10-pound braid, an 8 or 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. That's the jig head I use exclusively is a Northland Smeltnator jig and a Z-Man scented jerk shad. And these jerk shads come in 3 different sizes, 3.5, 4, and 5 inch. So try to match the size of the bait if you can. When it comes to choosing the jig head, if it's under 20 feet, I'm gonna probably go with a 1/4 ounce, and over 20, I'm gonna go with a 3/8 ounce. And then we've got 1/2 ounce, we've got some 1/8 ounce lighter ones, so you can have some options there. But that thing is just deadly.
Yes, that lure and that presentation has worked great for you, obviously. Now, how do you like to fish it?
When it comes to fishing these baits, less is more. You know, you don't want to do a lot of jigging action with your rod tip. You want these things to just sort of glide and slide naturally through the water column. The #1 rule that I have is keep the bait above the fish. So we use the electronics a lot when using this technique, and growing up, it was all 2D sonar. We'd mark the fish, maybe drive over them on a piece of structure, mark them, get on top of them with the trolling motor, and hover these baits on top of them. Now with forward sonar, we're able to cast at these things and, you know, let them see the bait before they really know you're there. You definitely catch a few more fish. It's really fun watching how they interact with your bait on the screen. But again, #1 rule is always keep the bait above the fish. It's really tempting to want to just drop the bait in their face, you know, get it right in their personal area. Keep that bait above the fish. If you can make them swim up 2, 3, 4, even 5 feet for it, the chances of them biting it are a little bit higher, I think, and that's the deal. But the scented jerk shad, Smeltnator head, deadly all over the country, not only for bass.
Jeff, appreciate your time and sharing some insights into soft plastics. That's a simple and effective technique for sure. We're heading up to Lake Vermilion in Minnesota. That's a multi-species big fish factory.
Lake Vermilion's well known for its beauty. There's 365 islands, 1,200 miles of shoreline, some of the most beautiful rock outcroppings with mature red pine and white pine. It's just a beautiful, beautiful lake. Along with that, it's walleye fishery, and it's no secret, Vermilion's a great walleye lake. I'm going to read to you a paragraph out of their survey here from this last year. Overall, decent numbers of fish can be found from 13 to 20 inches, which is generally the size range anglers prefer to harvest. Additionally, above average numbers of small fish from 10 to 13 inches were present in the population last fall. These fish will grow throughout the 24 season, provide ample catch and harvest opportunities in 24 and beyond. Also, high numbers of fish 20 inches and larger will continue to provide memorable catch opportunities throughout the lake. So that's some really great news. As far as catching the walleyes on Vermilion, Man, there's so many ways to do it, but it's pretty hard to beat like a Lindy rig setup, minnow, leech, half a crawler. That's always a go-to on Vermilion. Slip bobber and leeches on the rock reefs and in the weeds, that's a go-to. One of my favorites is a good old jig and wrap. I love doing that. Ripping wraps, your plastics like a paddle tail or a split tail big bite plastic on like a VMC moon eye jig. That's a great option. Then also there's a really great lead core bite on Vermilion too. So there's a lot of ways, many ways to catch walleyes on Vermilion.
Hey guys, Jason Freed up here on beautiful Lake Vermilion. You know, Lake Vermilion is known for being a multi-species mecca. Great walleye fishing, big muskies, panfish, but you know, the other thing that brings a lot of people up here is the bass fishing, especially the smallmouth bass fishing. And the month of June might be one of the best months to come up to Lake Vermilion. As fish in general, but the smallmouth bass fishing can be fantastic. Early in June, those fish are gonna be fairly tight to shore, sometimes right next to shore. Look for those kind of big round boulder areas, those flats where those fish can settle in. From there, they're gonna start to slide out, typically the east end of the lake. The bass on the smallmouth end of things run a little bit bigger, but the numbers of smallmouth bass in the lake are unbelievable. When it comes to tactics on the lake, you gotta think from top down. So for me, probably one of my most favorite one is gonna just be a husky jerk. Right there, you cover ground, it's erratic, the pause typically is gonna be how you catch them, but that's gonna be probably my number one when it comes to that. My number two, in terms of horizontally working things and being aggressive, is gonna be something like a square bill crankbait. This is a crankbait that is gonna bounce off those rocks, pause. That's typically when those smallmouth are gonna catch it. Probably the next best search bait is gonna be some sort of swim bait. They love it, okay? You can work different levels of the water column, and that's typically gonna be really good ways to search out and find those fish. Once you find those fish, that's gonna be when sometimes you're gonna wanna slow things down. Obviously, probably the tried and true out here is gonna be a Ned rig. That's definitely one of my favorites out here, as well as probably having some sort of tube tied up. As we get farther into the month and we get to where those bugs start to hatch, the mayflies, you're gonna wanna start thinking about things like topwater. Early in the morning and the evenings, right here, this is one of the best bites you can have on Lake Vermilion, is a topwater bite, as well as sometimes even casting hair jigs. Let the fish tell you what's happening. If the fish are up top, topwaters and those things. If they're not aggressive and they're feeding on the bottom, your tubes, your Ned rigs, things like that. And I tell you what, you can catch a lot of smallmouth bass on Lake Vermilion.
Oh, that's a big one there. Oh, whoa.
When it comes to finesse fishing for smallmouth bass, there's a lot of different combinations of lures, baits, and soft plastics that are available, and we're going to help summarize it by a few of our guests, starting with James Lindner.
You know, when it comes to finesse bass fishing, I actually have a selection of baits here, 4 different baits that actually work wherever I've fished in North America for smallmouth bass. This actually happens to be a VMC Ned rig jig with a 4.5 quarantine craw, which actually doubles as a really finesse craw or a Ned rig in the fact that you can just pull the claws off. As far as a retrieve goes with this bait, it's relatively simple. It's usually a dragging and pumping. Every once in a while you can jig it really hard, but a lot of times you can actually just simply drag it on the bottom, and that's the really key, is not really to overfish the bait. The second bait is a small finesse swim bait, and I have this on a VMC hybrid swim bait jig. This is a 3.5 suicide shed. At certain points in times I've done fabulous on big smallmouths with these baits. A guaranteed winner, no question about it. You have it tied on wherever you fish for smallmouth bass, spring, summer, or fall. It's the 2.5 big bite salt tube. And I actually have this interior weighted head actually bounces over the rocks and it minimizes the bait getting hung in the bottom. It's a guaranteed brown bass catcher no matter where brown bass swim in North America. Last but not least is what I've been catching a lot of the fish on today, which is a drop shot rig. You'll notice that I actually have a pretty long dropper, a tungsten weight, VMC tungsten weight, and then I actually have a simple VMC Nico hook. This happens to be a big bite Somali worm. How do you like that? I know one thing, I'm absolutely sold on the Somali. Soft plastics and finesse is key for catching lots of big brownies throughout the summer months. Actually year round, to tell you the truth.
Throughout the season, finesse baits for smallmouth bass, it works so well, especially during the summertime. And next, we're joining Brad Hawthorne. He's going to share how and when he uses soft plastics for walleye.
So when to use plastics, when not to, how do I start, when do I start using plastics? I'm still on tungsten and shiner. If I'm on jig and a minnow and I'm doing 15 fish an hour, I may throw on a plastic, see if I can do 18, 20 fish an hour. And the increased amount of fish per hour may just come from getting them out of the net easier, not having to rebait, but it all comes down to what the fish is preferring. So what to start with? Well, if the fish are aggressive, like let's say you're just one after another with a tungsten jig and a shiner, well then I'll throw on a paddle tail and see if I can't emulate that same type of action with something artificial. See, with this, I'm not rebaiting all the time. This bait right here could catch you 50, 60, 70 fish before you even have to check anything other than your knot on it. So that's why we like plastic.
Oh, yes.
That's a good one, Brad.
My number one favorite plastic to use. You're gonna think it's this. It's not. This is something going back old school, and why all these companies still have them in their arsenal right there. It's because it's a little finessey. I can fish it super fast or super slow, and this jig pauses so well and it falls super well. If you can imagine this on a drop, just twisting all the way down, it's super scrumptious. So I hope that helps you guys catch more fish on plastics and when to use them and why.
This week we're featuring the Fortis net in our Blackfish giveaway. Now the Fortis net is made with all the quality components you want in a great landing net. It's got an extended handle, it's got a built-in ruler, it's made out of military grade aluminum, so it's super lightweight, and it's got a conservation netting so it protects the fish. Now you can win this fishing net if you head to AnglingBuzz.com or scan the QR code below.
And now it's time for our cool products. We're starting out with the Eye Candy Minnow from Northland Tackle. These are made of durable TPE soft plastic. They're super stretchy, and also the durability allows you to catch a lot of fish on one bait. It also absorbs scent really well, so you can add scent the night before, it'll soak it up. Here I have the 3-inch and 4-inch. This would be great for both walleye and smallmouth. And if you're fishing big slab crappie, even a 3-inch like this size could work. Snap jigging the 4-inch size on say a 1/4 ounce head can be perfect for walleye. The TPE material also floats, which allows for lifelike action. They're available in many different fish catching colors. The Eye Candy Minnow from Northland Tackle. And next from VMC, the Swingin' Ned Rig Jig. Now this is a unique variation on the successful Ned rig. You can see it features an articulating head. This allows for great crawling action along the bottom to entice fish to bite. This is great for bass, especially big smallmouth bass around gravel and boulders. It features an adjustable fluorocarbon bait keeper so you can rig your soft plastic straight on or also weedless. For all around fishing, a 3/16 ounce or even a 1/4 ounce jig is just perfect for summer bass. The Swingin' Ned Rig Jig from VMC. And next from Big Bite Baits, the Sensation Stick 5. And there's a number of different ways to rig this. You can wacky rig this, you can Nico rig this, you can even fish this on a Texas rig. You can also fish this on a Carolina rig. It's infused with Big Bite Sensation formula, so you don't have to add any scent to it. These are available in different color options. This is a great profile for summertime largemouth bass. The Big Bite Baits Sensation Stick 5. And from Blackfish Gear, the Zephyr Jacket and Pant. Here in the upper Midwest, it can get hot in the summertime, and when it rains, that can get uncomfortable. Well, this top and pant can keep you comfortable and dry. They're also very lightweight and packable, so you can store these away easily. These both feature waterproof event fabric, which is going to keep you comfortable out there, especially if the humidity is high. I've used these both a lot. They're perfect for summertime fishing when it rains here in the upper Midwest. And next, it's time for our technique of the week.
Now more than ever, I do a ton of fishing with forward-facing sonar, and the popularity of plastics have really changed the way I fish as well. You know, instead of relying on live bait, I fish a lot more plastics. Crush City has some great plastics, a great multi-species bait, but for walleyes, these things are absolutely killer. You know, two of my favorites would be the Crush City freeloader, and then of course the Crush City Mayor. One's a paddle tail, one's more of a straight tail or manta style tail. But rigging these on the right jig heads and making sure that the plastic is rigged right is huge as far as getting the proper action out of that bait. I'll show you exactly how I rig mine. Okay, so when I'm rigging this plastic, what I want to do is I want to go right dead center of the head of this profile, and in doing so, you want to make sure that that hook point is dead center of that plastic, okay? Because I'm going to come right through the middle of that body. I don't want it off to the side, because if I'm at an angle or to the side, I'm not going to be dead center of that bait, but right down the center. And then as I come through the top of the bait, there's a little guide here. It helps you guide that bait right down the center, but I'm not going to thread it all the way on yet because I want to get it up on this spring. So I'm going to twist this bait like so, and I'm actually going to spin this on so it's right in the center, like so. And as you can see, the shank of my hook comes out in the center of this bait, and then as you can see, there's no twisting or bowing of that plastic. When that bait rises and falls, if there's any sort of bow in that plastic, or if it's not rigged dead center of the head or dead center of the body, that bait's gonna twist and spin versus just rising and falling very naturally like a minnow, for example. Same goes for a paddle tail. When I hook up the Crush City Mayor, I like to use the neon moon eye jig heads, but I'm gonna rig it almost in the same fashion. Much like the freeloader, I'm going dead center of that bait, right? And I'm gonna spin it around. And when I spin it around, I wanna line up that hook shank to pop out right through that center guide. That way, when I slide it on the shank, that thing is just perfectly in line with that jig head. There's no twisting, spinning. It's as easy as that. Rigging plastics correctly to get the proper action out of your bait is huge. You're gonna put more fish in the boat if you simply take the time to rig these things on correctly. I guarantee it.
There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to jig heads and soft plastics, and when you make the right combinations like that, it can be incredibly effective for both bass and walleye. And to help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species, remember, anytime you're leaving any body of water, clean, drain, dry. And be sure to visit us at AnglingBuzz.com. We have ongoing sweepstakes there. We also have in-depth videos, blogs, and much more. And you can follow us across our social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Simply, it's AnglingBuzz. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.